such an honor and a privilege for me to introduce our keynote speaker today, Dr. Deborah Harmon Hines, PhD. She's Vice Provost and Professor, UMass Medical School. Dr. Hines has nearly 30 years of dedicated service to UMass Medical School to her credit. She has held the position as a Vice Provost for School Services, Professor of Radiology, and Professor in the Graduate School of Nursing. It is said that through her engagement and commitment to UMMS since 1989, Dr. Hines has achieved a rare and powerful impact on the community. In 2015, Hines received the American Society for Cell Biology Bruce Alberts Award for Excellence in Science Education. In 1998, she launched the Deborah Harmon Hines Scholarship Fund for underrepresented and disadvantaged students. Earlier this year, she was awarded the Chancellor's Medal for Distinguished Service in recognition of her leadership in medical education and diversity efforts, and in honor of the countless lives she has touched through her work at UMMS. It is our pleasure indeed to have her here today. Welcome, Dr. Hines and her husband. She suggested the topic for today's talk, which said it takes a village to save the earth. I thought that was just a very intriguing and interesting title for the talk, and I personally cannot wait to hear what she has to say today. Dr. Hines,
thank you. I'd like to thank my good friend Shatanya for inviting me. He has come and worked with us in the summertime at UMass Medical School in our STEM education efforts. And you should know that the medical school reaches out kindergarten level all the way through college in terms of STEM education. We realize that people can't go to medical school if they don't do science, if they don't do math. A lot of engineers convert to go into the health professions. And nowadays, we're dependent upon a lot of those engineers, especially in information technology, to help support the entire enterprise of healthcare. So we've been involved in this for a number of years. I'm going to tell you some stories to illustrate the points that I want to make today about It Takes a Village. I'm old enough to remember the first Earth Day. And if you do the math, I was a senior in college when it happened. I remember all of the people getting together, waving flags, doing all of those sorts of things. I was attending a historically black college. Now, being a teacher, if you don't know what that is, you have to look that up. I'll call them, you want to close that door? Lamorne College in Memphis, Tennessee. At that time, I had completed all of my required courses for graduation. It was spring. So I just took a lot of elective courses, and one of those elective courses was a course in philosophy taught by a white nun. Now, this is the trailing days of segregation, okay? Now, having a white nun on campus was not special because she was white. Most of my instructors were white. As a matter of fact, they were mostly Jewish. When Jewish people were fleeing Germany in the late 30s, coming to this country, they were not welcomed. It was bad to be black and it was bad to be Jewish in this country at that time. But the historically black colleges and universities welcomed them. They had doctorates in science and math and the humanities. And so many of my instructors at my historically black college were white and Jewish. But a white nun, we were a Protestant institution. So here this little nun is running around campus in her habit. She was easy to spot. And it took some getting used to her. She had us reading things about Teilhard de Chardin, okay, all of the great philosophers. And then she comes up with this thing about Earth Day. And we're all kind of looking at each other because basically we're just ready to graduate and get on with our lives. Most of us were first generation high school graduates. Not just first generation college, but first generation high school graduates. Our big concerns at that point had been how to pay our tuition, how to get back and forth to school. Many of us came out of low-income housing projects. So when she starts talking about Earth Day, all perfectly dressed in white, we didn't dare wear white in those days. You had to ride the city buses to get there. You got dirty. We just kind of looked at her like she was crazy. So I have to confess to you, I did not buy into the first Earth Day. I also have to tell you that I flunked nonviolence during the Civil Rights Movement. In order to march in the Civil Rights Movement, you had to attend classes on how to be nonviolent. And I flunked. They told me, little girl, you go home because you'll mess everything up. So those are two really big failures at that point in my life. It wasn't until I went on to graduate school and learned more about how every part of how we live is interdependent on every other part. And when somebody finally put it to me this way, I got it. They said, think of the earth as a spaceship. And we have everything we're going to ever get on that spaceship. So we have to make it last for the journey. It wasn't until I came across that realization. So one of the first messages I want to give to you is everybody's not ready because you are. Be patient with those who are not ready, but also be ready to teach them, which is part of the theme for this year's Earth Day celebration, Environmental and Climate Literacy, our commitment to students by 2020. That is the international theme. We are dedicated to ensuring that every student around the world graduates high school as an environmental and climate literate citizen, ready to take action and be a voice for change. You cannot imagine how important that is when the people who are making decisions about these kinds of things today are naysayers saying they don't believe in climate change. One of the most strong opponents of climate change was a U.S. senator who did a complete reversal because his grandchildren helped him to understand. Now, I really hate to say we might have to give up on the old people, because I'm one of them. But the fact that we are now targeting making our children especially literate about these subjects before they graduate from high school, I think is a goal worthy of achieving. Now, in past Earth Days, for example, in 2010, one of the goals of Earth Day was to plant 1 billion trees. And that goal was attained by 2012. So if our goal is to make sure that all of our children graduating from high school are literate about the climate and the environment, I think we can achieve that. You know, it's not rocket science. It's listening to the young people with the projects that they've talked about here today and encouraging them and lifting them up. one of the assignments that we were given in that course was to read a book by Rachel Carson. How many of you are familiar with Rachel Carson? She's really the mother of Earth Day. In 1962, she published a book called Silent Spring. She had been working in the U.S. Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and she was one of the first people to make the connections throughout the whole of our environment. Your seal, or your whole emblem up there is about how everything interplays on each other. But let's back up a little bit further. Coming out of World War II, two of the biggest scientific things. Can anybody chance to say what they might have been coming out of World War II?
I have two guesses, and I haven't thought about this.
You do one.
All right. So one obviously would be the atomic bomb. The other might be production of nitrogen by Holland, right? Because I've fed a lot of people. But
yeah. You're pretty close on the second one. The first one was absolutely the atomic bomb, but the second one was DDT, the pesticide. And if you go back and look at commercials and things from those days, you'd be surprised what they were doing when they were testing the atomic bomb. They had people sitting in chairs like it was a theater, not very far from what was happening, with special glasses because they said you had to protect your eyes. Sitting there watching this live. And similarly, they were coming out in World War II, they developed DDT, and because a lot of where we were fighting was in tropical places, to kill the mosquitoes, the ticks, the mites, the animals that gave diseases to the troops. Once World War II was over, then they started exploiting atomic energy to provide energy for electricity, for our homes, that sort of thing. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, so if I sound different, it's because I'm from the South, and we use the whole alphabet. We speak slowly. We put endings on words. I grew up with the Tennessee Valley Authority, where a series of dams were put along the rivers that were tributaries of the Tennessee River to generate electricity. And it was a very, very efficient system. But all of a sudden, with atomic energy, we could generate electricity with atomic energy plants. They were spraying DDT on everything, because once you killed the insects, the plants would grow bigger, faster. In the South, there are 2 growing seasons. The summers are so long. So that's one of the things that contributed to the growth of the South right after World War II. Move ahead a little bit, though, to about the mid-50s, and people were still playing with the atomic bomb as a weapon. And anybody in this room old enough to remember the bomb drills is telling how old you are. For the babies in the audience, once a week for 1 hour, we marched out into the hallways, sat with our hands over our heads, supposedly to protect ourselves from the atomic bomb if the Russians dropped a bomb. Now, being curious, I went and looked this thing up. And what I found out is if they dropped a bomb, we would all just be dead. So this was a futile activity. Then I got worried about the teachers. I'm wondering, I wonder if the teachers know we're wasting our time. But being a well-trained child, I did not tell them that. I cooperated. But these were things that progressed And there was this tug and this pull between the use of atomic energy for good or what atomic energy could do for bad. There was a similar tug then between all the things that technology and science could do for the good. That is, to grow more food, to make more money. And I don't think we have solved that problem today. It is a tug. It is a pull. For those of us, and as I said, I wasn't always on the boat. I'm on the boat now. But for those of us who are on the boat of saving the environment, saving this ship that we're hurling through space on, it is so important then for us to help other people to understand that. My husband is a minister, and we constantly have conversations between the whole thing about faith and science, okay? Once I discovered the hydrogen atom, one proton, one neutron, and electron, and that if you throw that thing around kind of funny and hit another one, the whole world would blow up. I said, I knew there was a God, because human beings couldn't have figured that out. We couldn't have figured out how to make that elementary atom. And how all of the other atoms, when you put them together, you put two of those together, you got helium, you keep putting those things together, and you got all the chemical elements that we need to make a world. I was blown away by that. So I was a convert to science very, very early, in spite of the fact that I was totally educated under segregation. Anybody know what segregation is? You ever seen any movies about that? What's segregation? You don't know what that is? That's when, by law, black people had to stay over there and white people over there. And we could not cross. If you've ever seen the movie The Help, where they didn't want the lady to use the bathroom inside of the house, that was segregation. My big scientific moment was at the age of 7 when I saw one pipe coming out of the wall, dividing, going to 2 water fountains, and one said colored and one said white. I said, but there's only one source of water. Conducting my first scientific experiment, when nobody was looking, I drank out of the white water fountain. It was the same water. Science won the day. And thereafter, everything I did was to ask, why? No matter what I was told, why? Why is it this way? How does it work? What are we doing? So coming into where we are today, it is very, very important that as a village, once again, we start educating our children. Now, I'm going to introduce something, and I hope it doesn't offend my religious friends, the unholy Trinity. You know about the Holy Trinity, whether you're a Christian or not, but I want to talk about the unholy Trinity. The unholy Trinity has a $ sign at the top. At another corner, there's power. And at the other corner, there's information. In the unholy Trinity, money can buy anything, can influence anything. Power can control money and can control information. But information, accurate information, up-to-date information, can influence power and can also influence money. I don't have any money. I don't have any power, but I have information. Everybody in this room has access to information. and how we use that information to affect change is purely up to us. Now, today around the world, people are celebrating their support of science. I think that's a very, very good thing. I think scientists have stayed out of the conversation too long. The people with the facts have tried to stay pure and out of the conversation. But it's time to support the science and for the scientists to speak. I'm reminded of 20 years ago when doctors stayed out of the conversation. And our healthcare system evolved into what it is today with businessmen, business people controlling it. So, as citizens of the world, as members on this ship hurtling through space, our own little village, it's going to take all of our efforts to affect change so that the 20th generation of that seed project will be around, so that there will be water, shelter, and food for everybody on the face of this earth. I commend you in your celebration. Thank you so much for inviting me.